I would like to welcome and thank our master moderator, Dr. Ken Erickson, who is at the Department of International Business, Moore School of Business, University of South Carolina, who in an earlier life was a broadcaster. And you will hear his mellifluous tones as we go through the session. With that, turn this over to Ken.
Dear. Thank you, Kathleen. It's wonderful to be with you all today. As you can imagine, we have a number of participants. We have 4 amazing keynote speakers today. And a couple of notes, if you have not already renamed yourself with your name and the location from which you are Zooming, please do so now. However, if you prefer not to have your name recorded, feel free to not include your name. And also feel free not to keep your camera on, and that way you can be a lurker, but you're still more than welcome to participate in that way. That's certainly up to you. So know that that is something you can do. The other thing is I will be checking with Kathleen from time to time to make sure that I have timing correct, and Elizabeth is our timekeeper. Thank you, Elizabeth, because that's an important role. Let's see. The other thing today is that we have chat available for everyone that allows you to chat with the participants in the room with the drop-down box that you'll find once you open chat, which you can do at the bottom of your screen and then control that chat window in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. That's the place to put your questions for today. In the interest of time, we won't be taking questions live with your mic, except during the breakout sessions. So that's an opportunity to discuss. We'll be doing that. Let me just lay out what we'll do today. First of all, we'll have keynote speakers, followed by breakout sessions where you'll be able to choose your own breakout room with the number of folks today. That shouldn't be a problem, and we'll be able to assist you with that as we go forward. If you have an older version of Zoom, you may need help to get into that breakout room, but it shouldn't be a big problem. The breakout rooms will stay open for roughly 30 minutes, and that's going to be one of the especially nice things about today. We have a chance to chat with one another and share ideas about the kinds of barriers and opportunities that we've all faced in being anthropologists out in the world of work. So with all of that in mind, let's see. We shall move right away, I think, Kathleen, into our keynote speakers, shall we not?
Yes.
And we've already thanked the organizers here. So moving to our keynote speakers. I think we have, first of all, 4 of them. Emily Pace is with us today, an amazing linguist and a person who takes linguistics into the world of work and the world of everyday life and many other things. Matt Artz, noted anthropologist and graduate of the University of North Texas. The founder of Anthro to UX and many other things. Ken Banks, a noted member of the Kenneth Club, as am I, from the UK, who is presently the head of social purpose at Yoti rather, an interesting and amazing personal identity website that's challenging the way we think about all of that. They'll say more about this, and Joana Breidenbach is with us as well, a wonderful social entrepreneur and anthropologist with us today. We'll start with Emily Pace. And Emily, please do a better job than I did in introducing yourself. And we'll turn it over, first of all, to Emily. Kathleen, please remind us how much time we have for each of our keynote speakers. 10 minutes. 6 minutes. Ah, yes, it is 6 minutes. We're keeping it short. So you are enjoined to keep it short and pithy. Emily, take it away.
So thank you so much, Ken, for the introduction. As he mentioned, I'm not actually an anthropologist. I am a linguist by training and by profession. My day job is as the principal linguist with a text analytics company called Expert System USA. We provide natural language processing products and solutions to customers in the U.S. federal government. But by night, I am a co-convener of a group within the Linguistic Society of America called Linguistics Beyond Academia. And we are coming off of a new event this summer called Linguistics Career Launch. It was a 1 month, 19-day intensive career preparation boot camp designed specifically by and for students of linguistics. All about, exploring careers in places like nonprofits, tech, government, being an entrepreneur, anywhere out in the world that a linguist could take their great skills. And a lot of those areas are places that, of course, anthropologists can fit as well. So a little bit about my background is I decided that, I wanted to go to grad school, but I thought that a PhD wasn't for me. So I pursued a master's in linguistics. And I thought, well, there's probably jobs in tech for somebody like me. There's a lot of growth in the tech sector for various types of language and human engagement. So specifically, my area is natural language processing. And my focus during school was really on trying to take as many courses as I could that I thought would be helpful for pursuing that type of career beyond academia. And of course, one of the challenges of that, of trying to figure that out in school, was that, your mileage may vary sometimes with the advice that you get from your professors about what is or is not a valuable skill to have outside of the academy. But with sort of enough talking to various people throughout the department, talking to people outside of the department, found a good path for myself that really cobbled together a lot of different disciplines of linguistics, and took that out on the job market to say, hey, I'm somebody who has this specific type of training, but I'm also a general social scientist. Here are the sorts of problems that I could help your organization solve. And I kind of stumbled into a position with this smaller company. And that for me was a great growth opportunity. One of the things that I hear a lot from the students that I have interacted with over the years is sort of not knowing, where to get started. And I think for many of us, when we were making our own transitions, we had that same question too, like, where do I even go? And so for me, it was really just about putting a lot of feelers kind of out into the world and then finding a path that I thought would be a good fit. And finding, more importantly, an organization and a team that I thought would be a good fit. So that for me was very important in terms of designing my career path, was to find a team that I really thought would help me grow, in addition to finding an organization that was a good fit for me. And so in the role that I've had over the past 6 years with my company, I've gotten to grow a lot and wear a lot of different hats because it is such a small organization. So I've done technical project management. I provide a lot of support to our chief technology officer. I'm a people manager, so I manage a small team. I've hired and recruited. I've done tons of customer interfacing. I've collaborated with technical individuals, and that for me has really been a great fit. And so I think, going forward with my career, it's been such a great opportunity to be able to have all of these different roles. Is a really good way to help me figure out what it is that I like and what it is that I don't like in my career. What I also want to share a few resources with everybody. I'm just going to copy these and paste them into the chat. So I mentioned my involvement with the Linguistics Beyond Academia group and with Linguistics Career Launch this summer. I'm going to put some links in the chat here, and I invite people to join us on Facebook or LinkedIn to check out our website. We have a YouTube channel that you can have a preview of. We have one video up, but more is coming soon. We're working on editing now. We recorded dozens and dozens of hours, maybe 100 hours of stuff over Linguistics Career Launch, and we're going to make that publicly available. Don't be scared by the fact that it says linguistics. A lot of it is very, again, broadly applicable to anthropologists, to people in the social sciences, and hopefully within this, you might find something that is helpful for you exploring your own career. And with that, I think that's my 6 minutes.
Thank you, Emily. That's lovely. And y'all can see those links right there in the chat. That's a wonderful, wonderful addition. Thanks so much. Matt, introduce yourself. It's your turn for 6 minutes.
All right, so I'm at Artz. So for those of you who don't know me, I trained as an anthropologist, applied anthropologist from UNT. I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, in the sense that, going back to childhood, I was always starting projects, but certainly as I got into undergraduate and graduate, I was starting companies. My first one was started to try to commercialize some patent pending technology in the biotech space. I gave up on that basically failed. I didn't want to take out massive loans and compete with Fisher Scientific, but rolled that into a digital marketing firm. Eventually realized that I was sort of missing something from what I was doing in the business space. Realized that anthropology was, would help fill that gap. Went on, to do that, and have since really stayed in the sort of entrepreneurial consulting space. Even though I also work for a company today, I still have multiple companies on the side, one of my own that's sort of a boutique consulting company, just working on passion projects, like currently right now working on an application to preserve an indigenous language. I have Anthro to UX, which is a career coaching service. And then I work for a company where we start and basically spin up products that we build, take to market, try to divest, et cetera. So I'm also the creator, as I sort of alluded to, of Anthro to UX podcast and the Anthro in Business, Anthropology and Business podcast. I like making music on the side, so I'm kind of in the creator space as well. And then as an educator, teaching currently at Drew, but previously at other universities. So I come to the table today coming, with all that experience, but also actually starting in business and technology and academically speaking, making my way into anthropology because I felt anthropology could provide value to these other disciplines. And so whereas many anthropologists today are ending up in tech, I actually kind of went in the opposite path. And so oftentimes like to point that out because I think it brings a slightly different perspective than the people who are going in the opposite direction. Both are fine, but just think it's worth noting. So basically for today, I'm actually going to build on what Emily said, which is I think you need to research and design your education and your career with intention. And that's ultimately kind of what design means. And I don't think you should just sort of let it unfold. I think you should take an active stake in really figuring out how that's going to unfold in front of you by sort of using research and design to help kind of plan that process. And so, I'm going to use this very simple framework today just to kind of guide what I'm going to say, because others may say something different. But oftentimes when you get career or even educational advice, you might hear some people say kind of follow your passion. I don't necessarily agree with that. I follow a much more pragmatic approach. And the reason for that is because of who I am as a person. I have to appreciate that I can be kind of an anxious person who doesn't I love music. I would love to be making a living off of music, but I don't think 20 years ago when I first got interested in playing as an adult that I was ready to take a leap and try to make a career out of music, right? I just couldn't probably bear not having a sustained income and everything else. So I think both sort of big picture approaches are valuable. And I think you just need to identify kind of which is best for you. And you may lie somewhere in this continuum. So someone else today might say, just follow your passion and try to, tackle the biggest problems in the world. And if that's for you, great, go for it. If it's not, I'm going to offer a few kind of pragmatic suggestions that I think maybe you want to keep in mind. And so I think, again, kind of tied back to the research concept, you really need to take assessment of who you are. That's build emotional intelligence to the best of our abilities so we can really gauge who we are as an individual, our skills, our knowledge, and maybe more importantly, our gaps. Think about, possible career paths, where you want to go. And I say possible because it's very hard to plan. So it's good to have multiple plans and see how, life takes us but have, follow the path as it sort of takes us, but have multiple senses of where you might want to go and what kind of impact you might want to have in life. And then, for those who are maybe, earlier in the education process, potentially use that to back into the educational pathway, if you will, or your trajectory, which includes anything from what school to the faculty you want to work with, to even, as Emily said, to what degree level do you want to go to? I previously got 2 master's degrees, an MBA.
So you momentarily lost sound, or is it just me?
Just you.
Okay, I'll keep going. So I, like Emily, got, master's degrees. At the time, I didn't think I needed a PhD to do what I wanted to do. And so, you don't always need that. You got to find the right fit for you depending on where you want to go. And so from the design perspective, you can think about this, thinking through like frameworks that could be based on maybe personal needs, organizational kind of fit for you in the future, the type of role you want, how much research you want to do, or what type of research. There could be many ways you could frame this. I'm just going to give you a quick example here. So you could think of something like a 2x2, which is like, a classic tool that we see all over the place, but also used in human-centered design. Do you want to work in a startup, or do you want to work at a corporate setting? Do you want to work on very complex subject matter like AI, or would you prefer something less complex? Anything is fine. You just got to find the right fit for you. And if you plot things visually, it can help, in like say a 2x2 like this, it can just help you see the landscape a little bit. And you can do this for many dimensions of whatever it may be, including, again, your own sort of appetite for, for types of, could you deal with, following the passion project or not? So just think of how you might be able to help yourself visualize your potential path, and frameworks like this can be useful. So 2 quick slides on suggestions for training. What I would say is look to apply your knowledge at every step. We know a lot of academic programs are not always applied in nature, but figure out how you can try to apply it. So try to align all your classes, projects, thesis, dissertation, whatever it may be, with your future career possibilities. So everything ties a nice line. Research something small enough, if you're doing a thesis or dissertation where you can make a real impact and sort of use it to demonstrate your value. If you bite off something sometimes too big, it's maybe less of an impactful portfolio project later when you have to be in an interview. Okay, and then just with career, again, basically be assertive, kind of create your own projects. Don't just wait for everything to kind of be put in your lap. And so I'll end it there, and then we can talk about more in the group sessions.
With in Ken's absence, I would be delighted to introduce the other Ken, the Ken Banks from Cambridge. Ken, welcome. Please introduce yourself far more fully than I did.
I will do that. So I will share a screen. Thank you very much. Okay, share. All right then. So it's great to be with you all. Always happy to talk about anthropology. Happy to talk about a completely accidental career in anthropology, I guess. I've spoken to Matt before and echo his sentiment that there's certainly different approaches to this. If I go back to the beginning, for me, I didn't even know what anthropology was before I really started studying it. I thought it was digging up bones and looking at old bits of pottery, and obviously some parts of it are, but also there's a whole range of different sort of anthropological disciplines which I wasn't aware of. And social anthropology was the one I ended up falling into. The short story is I got very interested in global development. Live Aid was my starting point. For those of you who were around in 1985, who may have watched Live Aid, it's kind of opened my eyes up to a world that I didn't realize existed, a world of inequality, a world of poverty, a world of where I really felt particularly guilty being born in an affluent, nice part of the world where other people, by pure bad luck on their part, being born in the complete opposite. So I wanted to go and learn more. It was really just a sense of curiosity. And I went to Sussex University in the end at 30 as a very mature student. And at Sussex, you couldn't just do development studies. You had to do it with something. And there was, knitting, French, Spanish, library studies, and social anthropology. And so I thought, hey, why not do that? It's about people. I like people. I like to think I'm a nice person. I think, what can be bad about learning about other people and learning about other cultures? So I studied anthropology, and, I struggled for a bit. Kinship, gender, and social reproduction nearly ended me. I never really could get to grips with any of that. So if anyone here can, congratulations, you're much better than me. But eventually I fell into it, and I really started to appreciate what anthropology brought. And as I entered the global development sector, by pure fluke and by pure luck, I realized that there was a huge missing piece. And that huge missing piece happened to be anthropology. And I think it still is largely a huge missing piece. I see so many development projects now, global development initiatives, where the very notion that you might spend time understanding your target community is kind of a foreign one. And people are just flying around the world with ideas and solutions and lots of money and aren't really spending the time to try to figure out what it is people need, what life is like for those people, gender issues in their society, other cultural issues, geographies, or anything at all. And the frustration was that people would go out to, say Malawi for a week, they would take a survey, they would ask questions, they would fly back, and they would feel that that was enough to really understand the communities where they wanted to run their project. And of course, it just doesn't work that way. I think that's kind of the sociological approach. What I always wanted to do was spend time in the communities where I wanted to work. And from the very, very beginning, so early 90s, before I did any global development work, I thought to myself, you know what, if I want to do anything to help these people, if I want to contribute in any meaningful way, I need to live and work and spend time with these people, because it's very naive and very foolish of me to think I can do anything useful if I don't try to learn about the lives that they lead. So that's what I did. I spent a lot of time traveling around Africa, doing building projects, running conservation projects, ran a primate sanctuary in Nigeria for a year. And I really just absolutely threw myself at it. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know really what the end result was going to be, but I just wanted to learn about the lives of the people that I decided I wanted to commit my life to helping. And so I ended up falling into the technology and global development sector. And what I found in that sector was it was just as bad as the rest of the sort of humanitarian sector, really. There were people building technologies from Washington, DC, from London, from Paris, from New York, who hadn't even set foot in the countries where they thought their technologies might work, and just expected them to work, expected people to be there with their arms open and to be receptive to these ideas, when the people using the solutions were not in any way engaged in the development of that solution, and the people that built the solution had never even set foot in the communities where they lived. I think that makes absolutely no sense. You don't need to go to university for 3 years to realize that it's a bonkers approach to think you can actually do something like that and for it to succeed. I ended up developing a text messaging solution in 2005 called Frontline SMS. And it was a very, very simple low text messaging blasting tool, which allowed anybody in the developing country to, with a single bar of mobile phone coverage and a cheap computer, to do mass messaging. And it was built in a way that I knew would work for people that didn't understand technology, but people who understood the problems they were facing better than any white person could. And that was always my kind of objective. And so that solution ended up, I'll very, very fast forward, after 3 or 4 years, in 190 countries, 30 million people were getting benefits from its use. And they were almost all grassroots initiatives. They were almost all women's cooperatives working out of villages, local farmers, local human rights groups, the people who were closest to the problem and who had the better understanding of the problem and were therefore in the best position to find a solution for it. I ended up leaving the humanitarian sector 3 years ago, and as Ken mentioned, I now work at a company called Yoti. I returned to the private sector out of a frustration that there weren't enough people practicing anthropology in the tech for development space. There weren't enough people really practicing anthropology, I don't think, in the global development space. There was far too many people running around just doing things without any understanding really of the people they were trying to help. And I just got so angry about it, I just decided I had to leave. I tried very hard to change people's opinions. I spoke constantly about how anthropology had helped me, thinking about participant observation, immersing yourself within communities, taking the time.
Ken, sorry, you got to finish up. You're at 6 minutes.
Okay. So I can basically stop there. Actually, that's not a problem, because the rest of it's pretty much the same.
Thank you very much, Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
Members of the Kenneth
I've got
Club.
an echo. I think I've got an echo here.
Yeah. We're brothers from another mother. It's quite clear. Our next, and we'll, these issues, as issues come up and we hear things that excite us, I'm already taking notes on questions that I have. pardon me, we'll have a chance to discuss those in our breakout groups as we're able to do that piece. Our next and final keynote speaker, we're delighted to have with us a person who is, she's doing so many things, she'll tell you about them. It's Joana Breidenbach. Joana, please take it away.
Thank you so much. Lovely to be here. I'm also going to share my screen with you because I do have a few slides prepared. So what I'm going to start with, so I'm Joana, I'm based in Berlin, in Germany. And sorry, this was my phone. And I've got my life on one slide. So just to walk you through briefly through my life and my anthropology career. So I studied anthropology in Germany and in Berkeley and UC London, did a PhD, and then for the first 10 years, I think I was pretty clueless. I really didn't know, or for like 6 or 7 years, I really didn't know what to do with my degree. But then I got inspired to write books, and I had 2 kids in the, along that way. And I wrote a number of books really popularizing cultural anthropology, which I had absorbed more in the Anglo-Saxon sphere, and introduced those kind of theories to the German broader audience. So I had, for many years, I had a column in a German business monthly, really presenting anthropological findings about cultural globalization, which are usually, read by not so many people, trying to really push that and opening up the imaginary space in Germany of what globalization can be like, what cultural appropriation, creolization, all of the hybridization, all of these topics, which in the 1990s and 2000s were, interesting to study. So that was like my first career, and I did that for 10 years. I wrote a number of books, collaborated with other anthropologists. I very often, which I really enjoyed, I collaborated with academic anthropologists, and we would always publish one version for the more academic market. And then we would publish a number of other versions for like more general readership, magazines, popular books. I thought that was a wonderful thing to do. And I do think it somehow created, or it helped to shape a bit of a different idea in Germany about, what is German culture, culture we are not living in these boxes, in these predefined boxes, but culture is constant change. And so that was kind of the narrative I was trying to push for many years. And then I went on a trip around the world in 2006 with my husband and my children for half a year. And there the idea was born to create a crowdfunding platform for social projects. And that's what you see here, betterplace.org. That was the name. We came back in 2007. We created that platform. At that time, there was no Kickstarter. There were, very few other, we thought we were the first ones to invent the concept of crowdfunding. We found out that that's actually not the case, that you had in the US, you had Global Giving starting, I think, 2 years before us. And you had kiva.org for microcredits also in the US. You had Give India already for a number of years. But so the idea was really to create what we thought was an eBay for help, where grassroots social projects, not the kind of projects who, and Ken talked about that, the many problems large development programs come with, but we really wanted to empower local grassroots initiatives and present them to a global audience which could donate to them. And we actually were quite successful. We are by now Germany's largest crowdfunding website for social projects. We have about 35,000, and I can show you, I have a few screenshots of 4 of our companies in the Better Place universe. So on the left, you see the German version of the crowdfunding platform. We now, I think, have 35,000 projects using us for their fundraising. It's global. The donation volumes are really fairly high, and we did manage to use digital technologies in order to really make this long tail of grassroots projects visible. But then we also realized, and there I think the anthropologist in me kicked in, because to provide NGOs and social initiatives and also private individuals with funding is good. But I saw that digital communication is changing so much in the world that I really wanted to amplify the kind of innovations I saw just doing desk research at that time, how nonprofits, social sector activists are using digital communications in order to really along the whole value chain of their work in order to improve what they were doing. And so we then decided to create a think tank called the Better Place Lab, which is on the far lower left side here, and to really look at the impact digitization is having on the social sector, but also how can we use digital technologies in a proactive way. And for me, that was always really important to have a potential-oriented perspective, because far before the techlash, which we now see around the world, in Germany, people were very skeptical of digital technologies, and especially social sector agents were very, very conservative. And we really wanted to, take those barriers and inspire people. We also since then have created a Better Place Academy, which is really for grassroots to learn digital skills, and the Boom, which is a collaborative, it's a co-working space for civil society organizations here in Berlin. So these are some of the things which I did. And in the Better Place Lab, and that's me, the anthropologist again, I started a project called Lab Around the World, where we would, over a few years, every colleague of mine, and we are 21 people in our team, every colleague could choose one country, and they could study local innovation. And we hear so much about the startup culture everywhere, but we wanted to put a focus on social startups. So again, mostly young teams who use digital communication. They are for profit or non-profit, and they use the technology in a environmentally or socially progressive way. And we did a lot of field research in that way. We went very unstructured into the field. I mean, I tried to apply some of my anthropological skills in those mini field works. We only stayed in those countries for 1 month at a time, but nevertheless, it introduced some freshness into this research, which I think also other people got excited about. So, and I wanted to, if I'm now going to narrow down a bit about, what I learned and how I applied my anthropological training to what I'm doing as a social entrepreneur, because all of these companies are nonprofits. And
sorry, 6 minutes is up. Maybe you can just finish up.
I will just finish up. Okay. So recently I've been really interested in looking at the way of new work or the future of work, how we are completely changing the way how we work as companies, because we have distributed leadership, we create new kinds of very flexible hierarchies. And I find that my anthropological training really gives me, and we can talk about that maybe later in more detail, gives me competencies of self-reflection, meta-reflection, process awareness, zooming out of social scenes and moving between spheres, which is really very unique. And I don't know many other academic skills or professions which enable certain kinds of reflective qualities, which I feel are really, really important nowadays. And that's my end.
Wonderful. Plenty of things to think about. I'm really struck by the parallels here and by the range of difference that we're hearing. And I think those are things we can explore in our breakout groups. Kathleen, would you like to describe how we're going to arrange those breakout groups today so that folks can know what we're up to?
I would be delighted. Can you all hear me? Okay. Thank you so much to the speakers. But I'm very frustrated that it was only 6 minutes each. I want to hear 60 minutes from each of you. Maybe another time. So what we're going to do is we're going to break out into 3 groups, and they will be anchored by Ken Banks, by Emily Pace, and Matt Artz. And the moderators, the participants, everyone else will spread ourselves out among those 3 groups for a lively conversation. And then in 30 minutes, we're going to come back together for a bigger group conversation. The organizational folks who are going into each of the groups are going to be listening for ideas and issues, and we will bring those back to the big groups, and we will discuss those in and then we're going to come to some sort of key findings from our conference.
Well, welcome back from your room. When they say it's 30 seconds, they're not kidding. 30 seconds.
Yes.
Matt was in mid-sentence.
Yeah.
But now, let's see. Post-breakout discussion. Welcome back, everyone. I know we're all hungry for more conversations. I know we made some interesting connections in our group. Here's how this next bit will run. I'd like to hear 3 key findings. We have 15 minutes left in our time together. So let's make those findings really short. I don't have the current list, do I, in front of me of who is to go first? Let's see. Yeah, why not? Help me to know. My notes are a bit
Ask for a
sketchy
volunteer.
Yeah, let's go for a volunteer. Or I'll just assign Matt, since I know he was in mid-sentence working this out. We'll start with Matt. Give us a 1-minute summary, then we'll move to the next.
I think we could probably do 2. What do you think?
Yeah, we could probably do 2 minutes. What the heck?
Sure. So it was for us, I think what I was hearing was we really kind of need to know our audience along the way. I mean, as a student, maybe you got to project into the future, again, the sort of possibilities you want to go into and identify those spaces, but know the audience. And then you need to constantly sort of be reframing for the audience as the audience change. That's maybe initially, the people that you're applying to a job with, that later becomes your clients, your various stakeholders that you're sort of selling this work to. And then maybe that there's an opportunity for practitioners to do a better job reaching out to various academic programs to help them stay sort of on track with trends in industry, put on presentations, speak, just help give a little feedback to them so that we're a little bit more connected. Pause there.
Very good. Yeah, Ken, do you want to give us a summary from your gang?
I would love to give a summary from our gang. So we said everything that Mac's group said, plus more. So 3 quick takeaways. You can all hear me okay, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay, so not in any particular order. We felt that there was one of the challenges was a lack of materials or places to go or advice or any kind of resource, kind of coordinated central resource for people to go to learn about what anthropology basically has to offer industry or has to offer, or how anthropologists might go about being able to offer what they do to industry. Now, I'm absolutely sure there's probably loads of stuff out there, but I think it was quite telling that in our group, we couldn't really think of that much. There were a couple of books and a couple of bits and pieces here and there, but it was quite wishy-washy. There's stuff certainly online, but it's all over the place. Doesn't appear to be overly coordinated. If anybody in this call today actually knows of a really good place, and it'd be great to get that in the chat somewhere. I think also maybe an opportunity for anthropologists already working in industry and anthropologists who have managed to carve out roles for themselves within industry. The concept or the idea that they could perhaps become more of champions for the discipline, because we know there are people out there, but they're not perhaps shouting loud enough, and they're not perhaps visible enough to help other anthropologists get in, or to try to democratize the idea of anthropology. And I think the last one sort of tied into there, and apologies to my group if I've missed anything out, but this is just the quick 3 that I jotted down. A sense that we perhaps needed to repackage anthropology a little bit, that outside of anthropology as a discipline, there's very little of understanding of what it really is and what it really has to offer. So, if you go to a company and say, hey, I can help you understand your customers, I can help you understand your constituents, I can help you understand what A, B, or C might need or how they might behave, that would make a lot more sense to people, because that's the end result of what an anthropologist would perhaps do. So a slight challenge around perhaps the need for anthropology to maybe explain a bit more of what it does, maybe without perhaps even using the word anthropology, because many companies and many industries, I think, don't really understand, or we think don't really understand what anthropology has to offer. And either we wait for them to catch up with us, or we take the lead and we start to try to explain it to them in a more kind of democratic, open way. Apologies if there's anything I missed out there from our group.
Wonderful. Is it a good time for our Rapport Tours to?
No, Emily.
Emily, I'm sorry, that's right. Oh, goodness, I'm getting ahead of the game. Emily, next, please. Thanks,
Yeah, so actually we had one of the same points that Ken just brought up about, you know, interacting with a more popular audience. So I will not go into detail about what we discussed there. I want to say first, one of the things that we talked about in terms of an opportunity, you know, seeing everything that you do at all of the stages of your career as an opportunity for your future, right? And so we talked a little bit about this idea of, you know, you're driving a car at night and all you can see is where the headlights are pointing, and there's so many directions that you can go. And so all of that past experience that you have will help you along the way as you figure out, you know, where your next best step is. And to add to that, we also talked a little bit about the improv idea of yes and, because that is how so many of us find opportunities in terms of you know, job opportunities to learn new skills. Somebody says, hey, do you want to do this thing? And you say, yeah. And that's how you know, take the next step in your career or learn something new. And by the way, the next step in your career could be something totally different, right? You know, you really do not know where you will be when you retire, when you start, you know, first start your career. And in terms of challenges, one of the major challenges that we identified was really the need to build a strong community of, which I know there are some efforts underway, and Elizabeth has put something in the chat along those lines, but building a strong community of practicing and applied anthropologists, because that is by far the biggest community, but it's not necessarily the most visible community. And so that would be one way, echoing what some of the other groups talked about, of probably making some cultural change at the departmental level as well, to, you know, kind of get everybody on board with this different direction, with this big community that's out there, and not just sort of making it, you know, acceptable to go that path, but making sure everybody has access to the resources that they need if that's a path that they choose to follow. So those are a few takeaways from our group.
Very cool. Yeah. Kathleen, help me make sure that I'm following our schedule correctly. I see that we have about 6, perhaps 7 minutes left. A good time for our Rapport Tours to engage with folks who have perhaps got some questions ready that they might want to put in chat at this time. Questions or comments? Yeah.
We can actually probably go to, we have one rapporteur, and that's Neil, and maybe ask him for a couple of thoughts and then open up for questions. People can put their hands up if they have a question or a thought, and we'll move quickly. And if people want to stay a few minutes after the appointed time, we can. There's flexibility for that on our side. Does that work for everybody?
Very good.
Okay, Neil, you got
Take it away, Neil.
a quick summary.
Hello, everybody. We talk about our work as being fun. This was just over the moon. I had such a great time listening to people and talking with folks. Some takeaways that I came up with, there are a lot of parallels among the different groups that had been meeting and the panels. Places where anthropology can go is kind of limited by your imagination and the background and experiences you've had. So cast a wide net when you're looking around. There's a distance between where academic programs in anthropology are and the language that's necessary to work in the real world. Academic programs are always going to be playing catch up on that, and professionals are the ideal people to help them modify and adjust their language and training opportunities. All of this creates a guidepost to the future for professional anthropologists practicing and applied folks. These kinds of opportunities don't come around very often, and I think as we all have experienced over the course of our careers, this is a unique moment in time. But it also points to why this network that's being created is so important for all of us. There's an opportunity for mentoring that can go on across all kinds of cross spheres, but it also is sanctioning space for these conversations to go on where generally you can't find other people to talk to about these problems and about the frustrations. So I think it's really important to keep this conversation going. I think it's particularly important to bring students in and have them understand that they're joining a network of folks who are concerned about their issues and will be concerned about them and how they as students can participate in this conversation. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Wonderful, Neil. This is a great opportunity for folks to raise hands. You can always change your view settings in the upper right, as I'm constantly having to do to see folks. Raise hands and jump in. We have a little bit of time for open discussion. Dan, please.
Hello, everyone. So I already mentioned this in our discussion in a breakout room, but I want to mention this once more, and it has been an issue for me personally and for anthropologists that I communicate with for quite some time. It's the stereotypical image of anthropology and what we can do about it. What can anthropologists actually do? And the other Ken, or was it Matt? I don't know now, but I think it was Ken summarized it really well. So don't present, I mean, when you mention the label, I'm an anthropologist, when you try to get a job, grant or whatever, people don't know exactly where to put you, and blink, there comes this stereotypical image to their minds of, let's say, Bronislaw Malinowski or Franz Boas or whoever, and it's still in our heads. I know it's 100 years old image, but it's still in our heads. And this is why often we don't get this opportunity, the right chance, because they prefer to hire, I don't know, psychologists, a sociologist, than somebody who will just go away for 18 months and come back and write a book. So we don't need this. And we have to dissolve this image. It's nothing wrong with the image. I mean, we have to keep it, of course, but to show our image is much broader, and we can do things in different ways. And we can do things that are relevant for the contemporary world. We can help improving technologies. We can build new types of organizations like Joana does. And here we need really some people who will go on the podium like they do in this event that we organize, Why the World Needs Anthropologists, and explain in a simple way what they do. And this is again a problem of language. So which words and what kind of presentation will that person use on the stage? We have to be more understandable, more open, better in translating what we do to the public.
Exactly. Anyone else? Raise a hand or jump in. Janice. Janice said thumbs up.
So that was more a thumbs up. Yes, I agree with Dan than a comment. I'm not sure I have very much more to add, but maybe just to your point, Dan, that we need to be clearer in explaining what we bring. I maybe slightly disagree with Ken about not mentioning that we're anthropologists. I think the only way that we'll broaden the understanding of what we can do is specifically to mention that we are anthropologists, but then make our skills super relevant and applicable to the people we're talking to and the types of skill sets we're looking to engage with.
Yeah, I think that folks not knowing is a great opportunity, right? But when people say, well, I think I know what an anthropologist is. What an opportunity to explain what it is you're about. Yeah.
Just one small comment, if I can make. So we made a research about how anthropologists present themselves on LinkedIn, and many of them actually erase this title, the label anthropologist. Yeah, I mean, they hide it. They become project managers, researchers, whatever. And I think we should be proud of the label. Put it everywhere. Keep it on LinkedIn and other platforms. Become an anthropological journalist if you end in journalism. There's nothing wrong with it, but keep the label. Don't hide it. Don't be shy about it. I mean, be proud of it.
Come out of the closet, anthropology.
I just think
we're here and we're anthropologists, get used to it. Suzanne?
Hi. Let me lower my hand. Okay. Yes, I think especially anthropologists who have jobs and are settled need to remind of their coworkers that they are anthropologists, which I did for 20 years at the NIH. Anyway, I wanted to remind people, we're talking about training, whether, career, Elizabeth has the Career Readiness Commission trying to get departments, training departments to do better at preparing anthropologists for practice, for working out in the real world. But I want to remind people that beyond that, there are professional organizations that can provide support, that can provide community. That's what the Washington Association for Professional Anthropologists is all about. Kathleen, within the AAA, within the American Anthropological Association, her section, the National Association for Practicing Anthropologists, does that. And Dan, that's what you're doing in Europe. So I think that look towards these organizations, and if there's no organization that suits you, start your own organization and build communities of other anthropologists who are working and practicing in all sorts of settings outside of academics, beyond academics.
Ken Banks.
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, I think the point about burying it and making it visible to people and kind of leading it, I think one of the things I found over the years, I often talk about having studied anthropology when I do public speaking, and people are often shocked by it, because when I talk about mobile technology and all the work I've done, they just do not think that anthropology was that. So I think there's certainly an element of educating people around that. But often when you're going for work, people want to know what it is you can do for them. They're not going to hire you based on the title that you have or what degree you necessarily have. And I think that's why it's important that maybe sometimes we surprise people with it. So, you do a talk and everyone goes, wow, isn't that amazing? And by the way, I never knew that was anthropology. Or when people say to me at the end of a talk, what's one thing you recommend I study if I want to get into global development? And I say anthropology. I think springing it on people has a much, much more profound effect on them than trying to lead with it and then force a conversation into it.
Depends on the circumstances, yeah. And we're sensitive to context as anthropologists. And one thing I want to say is I've heard, and we love to complain about academic anthropology. I want to remind us all that Bob is with us, who lives in that world, and I have come to be in that academic world. And I must say that outside of anthropology, the problems we see of being a bit behind the so-called real world, that's true of the academy across the board. And there are always people inside academics, in the academic world, pushing against that and trying to drag the academy kicking and screaming into a closer correspondence with the problems that we all face outside of our academic homes. So, these generalizations we make, I think to Ken's point, there are times when you need a variety of tools and a variety of ways of presenting who you are and what you do. This has been a marvelous discussion. I know in the interest of time, folks should be aware that we have already gone past time. So I take just a moment, if I can, to thank the amazing institutions that are so important to us to allow us to come together. And that's the National Association for Practicing Anthropology, a branch of the AAA. And Kathleen, thank you for being such an important part of that and this group. The Washington Association of Practicing Anthropologists, one of the oldest local practitioner organizations in the world. And Suzanne, thank you for joining us as a representative of that group. For the Career Readiness Commission, Elizabeth Bryany, thank you for helping to organize this. And of course, Dan, thank you so much for the work that you do with the Applied Anthropology Network of the European Association of Social Anthropologists. It's been my pleasure and honor to be with you guys today. I've learned so much. And again, although we've come to a close, I think Kathleen's invitation for us to stick around longer if folks would like to is a great idea. So with that, I think we can formally end and thank everyone for being with us today. And if you'd like to stick around for a virtual coffee clatch or wine and cheese, please do so.
And a special thank you to Pamela Rao, who has been our Zoom master today.
Absolutely.
Very smooth, very nice. And to our speakers, Joana, Emily, Ken, and Matt. And finally, to Ken Erickson, who has been our master moderator today. He has made this entertaining, interesting, and collaborative. So thank you to all. This is a village, and it's gotten to be a bigger and bigger village. And my hope is that we can create a much bigger village where people can find friends, colleagues, and fellow travelers. So there will be future events from the collaboration. We are loosely organized at this point, but very friendly. And we are hopeful that we will have future events. So please watch for them online. And without the breakout sessions, we will be able to have a much bigger footprint for future sessions. So with that, if there's a conversation to be had, welcome. If you need to go into your day or your evening, thank you again for, we truly appreciate you being with us.